Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Summer Spectacular. Today is day 4. I'm Tom Vassell, and with me today I have PJ and Scott. And we're going to start off today here with a little bit of an interview. I'm going to ask some questions to them, and then you'll have a chance to ask. These are two of our champions from the World Series of Board Gaming last year. So we'll start with Scott. If you introduce yourself, tell people a bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Scott Kushner. I am from Hackettstown, New Jersey, and I am a proud father of 2 children, Colin and Nyla, and husband to Tiffany. Love you guys.
I didn't boo there. I'm a Pennsylvania. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, I'm PJ. I'm the Cascadia winner. I'm from San Diego. I've been with my longtime girlfriend, Zoe. She's the one that convinced me to go to WSBG for, a couple years now. It's going on to be pretty close to 5. But yeah, super excited to be here.
Yeah, so we, you mentioned you're a Cascadia winner. Scott is the 7 Wonders winner twice now. He has not only beat the champions, he's beat the Dice Tower champions, or Dice Tower amateurs, what have you. And we'll be playing Cascadia right after this. Well, I won't, because I know my limits. But you said that she convinced you to go.
Yeah.
So you weren't planning to go otherwise?
So I was really on the fence about it. Like, in my friend group, I'm kind of like the guy to beat. It's always, okay, we got to gang up on this guy, make sure that he loses. But I hadn't really been to that many board game conventions. So, like, I wasn't really sure if, like, I could stack up against, like, this level of competition. So I was really, like, on the fence about going. And she was the one that had more faith in me than I had in myself. And she was the one that really pushed me to go. So it's thanks to her that I have this.
I didn't even realize you guys are wearing the ring.
Yes,
I have my wedding ring.
I'm contractually obligated to wear this all the time. I can't take it off ever.
How often do you wear it?
I wear it to get them out.
Do you wear it to game night?
I do wear it to game night.
Like,
it's a nice little flex, just when I'm taking my turn, I'll be like, yeah, this would be a difficult decision for an ordinary person, but no, I'm kidding. Yeah.
What made you decide to go?
Well, honestly, I'd never heard of it. I mean, around February of 23, I'd never heard of it until then, and a friend of mine sent me a link and just said, hey, check this out. And I think we were kind of joking about it, but I thought about it for a month or so, and I thought, you know what, this is something let's go for it. Let's just do it. And I don't usually do that kind of stuff, as a father, with kids and stuff like that. That's in the middle of the school year. Sometimes it can get a little hairy to leave in the middle of that, but it was kind of a special treat. And so I certainly don't regret it in the least. It was an amazing experience, and that was prior to any winning rings or getting to the finals or anything like that.
Well, you two, I'm assuming you both were in 4 games, one each day?
Yep.
So what were the 4 games you played?
So my 4 games, the first game I played in was Terraforming Mars, and that was the one I was like most excited to play. I think outside of Cascadia, I studied a lot for Terraforming Mars. I got really into it. That was the game where I was like, I'm going to learn high-level strategies, and then I lost in round 1 immediately. So that was a bit of a bummer, and I was like, maybe I don't got what it takes, Maybe I'm in over my head there, but in day 2, I was playing Castles of Burgundy, and I actually met John on day 2, like when I was walking in, and I got to talk to him. John is one of the big people at WSBG. He helps like run the whole thing, and he's also one of the nicest guys on the planet. So if you go to WSBG, honestly, just go to meet him.
I call him Jovial John.
Yeah, he's great. And I walked in, and I was like, I was really bummed. I did not very good at Terraforming Mars. I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to do well here at all. Castles of Burgundy is like my worst game of the 4, and he was like, well, a lot of people like say that, but it's like the worst games actually end up doing surprisingly well in. And I actually made it to the semifinals in Castles of Burgundy, which was way better than I ever thought like I could possibly do. And then, of course, the day after, won Cascadia, my claim to fame.
So you didn't care about day 4?
Well, I did still care about day 4. I played Wingspan, which Wingspan's a very fun game, but man, there's a lot of really good Wingspan players there. Lost in the second round by 1 point. Final scores were like 81, 82, 83. Super close game, but yeah, I'm more than happy that I got a ring. It's more than I could have ever asked for, but yeah.
All right, what about what 4 games were you in?
So I started with Azul, and I my real goal was just to not get embarrassed in every single game. So I won my first Azul match, so I kind of already figured that it was a victory for the week, moral victory, if anything. Lost narrowly in the second game. Next day, I also was in Castles of Burgundy and lost to the same guy who beat me in Azul. So I just needed to avoid him. And so fortunately, I didn't run into him at all during the third day, which was Seven Wonders. I went through that tournament, and actually I had been training for Seven Wonders just prior to that starting, and one of the people I trained with was Matthias Vigge, the designer of Arc Nova.
Yeah.
I ended up running into Matthias in the championship for the ring, and ended up beating him there. And then I also was in Wingspan, and that was the first thing on the fourth day. So I was buzzing with adrenaline from the Seven Wonders victory. I didn't get a wink of sleep that night, and I played the worst game of Wingspan of my life that following morning and was out in the first round. But I did not care because everything was bonus at that point.
Well, you both mentioned training. What does that mean?
So for Seven Wonders, for me is once we learned what the player count is, that's a game where you can have up to 7 players, and we realized that it was going to be, I think the first round was 4 players, and then it was going down to 3, and then 3 as you moved on. So that changes the distribution of the cards, what's available, and so I wanted to have that fresh in my mind when I went to the game. So we played a couple of very fast rounds with that player count and with that card count, so that we would get a better sense of the flow of the game. So you're not relying on a card that just doesn't exist at that player count.
What would you do for training?
So it kind of depended on the game. Like Terraforming Mars, there's a lot to learn. Some cards are better than others. There were a decent amount of strategy videos like on YouTube that I would just like kind of absorb as much knowledge as I can. I would play against the bots on Steam. So very high level training there. But the Terraforming Mars game is like super fun. With Cascadia, unfortunately, my friends are all pretty busy, so for that one, I just played the solo mode like over and over again. I probably played like 20, 30 times, like just leading up to the tournament, just trying to get as much experience as I could, pretty much.
Now, if you're on a sports team, you go and you go to the big game, but you're practicing with your team ahead of time. You get to World Series of Board Gaming, there's no teams, it's individual.
Yeah.
So who do you play with?
Well, I was fortunate in that I found some people, total strangers, but they were also competing, and I befriended them, and they were willing to play games with me that, maybe eventually we were going to compete like Matthias and I did, but at least we were both getting better and having a chance to kind of bounce ideas off of each other or strategies off of each other. And as it turned out, we ended up being competitors. But with a large field, I think it's one of those things where, like, if PJ and I were in Castles of Burgundy together, that if we're both getting better, we're kind of increasing each other's chances, and I think that the atmosphere, even though it was competitive, was so collegial, and that there really wasn't that kind of cutthroat nature in it at all. Even in tournament play, it was just a very friendly. Everybody was in it together, and there wasn't that kind of the potential for backstabbing and being very sneaky with play or rough to each other was possible, but I didn't get a sense of that at all. And so certainly outside of tournament play, when we're just training, it was very friendly.
Yeah, you mentioned athletes, they train with like their teams. I like to imagine we're all in team board game, right? We're all there to have like a great time, and even people that like I'd be directly like competing against, we would like help each other out and give each other like tips, because like you said, I think we all just care about the game first and foremost, and like having a good experience, and really sharing tips and like get everyone getting better at the game, I think is so interesting and like fun to do. So yeah, just throughout the whole week, pretty much everyone I met was like amazing, and I met a lot of lovely people at WSBG. I played with a bunch of them. So that was like where I kind of got my training at the World Series itself. And since then, I've had the chance to play with a lot of the people I met last year, and get ready for this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued by that to some degree when people come and, I see the people playing. I'm like, aren't you guys mortal enemies? And it's an unusual thing. It does not happen in like World Series of Poker, for example.
Yeah.
So that's neat. Now, did either of you use Board Game Arena for practice?
A little bit beforehand. Mostly, the games that I had registered for, I had obviously played many times prior. But so, for instance, with Wingspan, I had played that many times in the physical version, but with a lot of the expansions. In the tournament, it was going to be just the base game. So Board Game Arena has just the base game. So I actually needed to practice again without those expansion cards and be refamiliarized with the base game. So I used BGA for that. Yep.
Yeah, same with me as well. Like, I played a little bit of like Castles and like Wingspan on like Board Game Arena, but not like too much. I honestly like more so used like the apps, and Castles of Burgundy I didn't practice nearly as much as I probably should have. I thought I was going to do better at Terraforming Mars. Tragically, it didn't work out that way though.
So if you don't know how the tournament works, there are 16 different games, and the 16 games will waver from year to year. I think there's 3 new games this year in 2024.
Right.
And so the 16 games are announced. There's 4 each day. So the most tournaments you can enter in is 4, because you can't be in 2 different tournaments on the same day. It's just not logistically possible. If you win, which both of you did, you then go to the semifinals, and there's a process of picking the game. We'll talk a bit about that, but you're then playing the game that you will play in the semifinals is different than the game you played to get there. It, by very nature, has to be. And then if you win the semifinal, you go to the finals, and that game will be different than both of the games that you played. So you have to win 3 different games to win it all. So you're going into this, and you were Terraforming Mars, which didn't work out, but Cascadia did.
Yeah.
And did you have any expectation on, like, was Seven Wonders your game, or?
No, I honestly thought that Wingspan was going to be my best chance to victory. I definitely felt like I had a competitor's chance at any of the other 3, Seven Wonders being one of them. I felt solid in it, but as with any game, there's always an element of luck to it. So on a good game, you can win, and if the cards don't come out your way, you lose. And I didn't feel like I was clearly the best Seven Wonders player entering the tournament. That was not where I felt like I had ultimate confidence.
Well, you were. Yeah. But okay, but here's the thing. So you picked the 4 games.
Yeah.
You're hoping to win them or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you go, and there's another game of the other 12 that you did not play. So going into this, there's 16 different games, and they are a wide range, from Terra Mystica and Great Western Trail on the upper end to Cascadia to old games like Acquire. Did you pick a few and just say, well, I hope I won't be in those games?
Yep.
Do you
For sure.
like the champion, Angela, she actually did not pick her best game for one of her 4, hoping that she would get into it in the semifinals, finals, which worked out for her, actually. What was your thoughts on that, on the games that you didn't pick for your 4?
Do you want to give the backstage experience?
Yeah. So,
All right,
so the backstage experience was so there were 16 of us gathered just off stage, awaiting finding out what the 4 games would be. And if you recall the process there, you had selected 4 random games and put those out. And the 4th of those games, so it was Arc Nova, it was Raw, Dune Imperium, and Gaia Project. And when Gaia Project was the 4th one chosen, 15 of the 16 of us all groaned because we didn't want anything to do with Gaia Project, except for Angela.
Well, 14, because the Gaia Project winner didn't care.
Oh, Gaia Project, that's right. He was out. Yeah, true. Thank you. She gave a little fist pump, like, I want Gaia Project, and we all thought, you can have it. And as it turned out, she got it. But I think when those other 3 games came out, I'm sure everybody had a certain element of, I'd rather have this than that. But I think everybody was mostly just trying to avoid Gaia Project, not just because I think I had never even seen Gaia Project until I got to, that was the one game I hadn't seen or played, so I was just trying to avoid it the whole week, and unfortunately I just missed out.
So what semifinals were you both in?
I was in Dune Imperium.
I was in Raw.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what'd that feel like going into that? Now you know you're playing against 3 people who won other games, but not that game.
Yeah.
Right. So with Dune Imperium, I actually purchased Dune Imperium prior to the World Series of Board Gaming because I knew it was going to be there, and I wanted to at least be familiar with it and play through it and try the different factions and things like that. So I had a familiarity with it, but I certainly hadn't been training for it leading up. So that night, once I found out what I was going to be playing, I went and took a nap, came back, and I trained from about 11:30, which is to about 7 a.m., and played through 2 full games, read a bunch of strategy guides, and tried to implement some things, and just pulled an all-nighter like I was back in college and crammed for the exam. And I think it worked out very well to my favor, and eked out a victory.
On my end, you probably had a similar experience, like right after you won Seven Wonders, but for me, it became like a mad dash of, okay, like I haven't even played like 4 or 5 of these games. I have to like try to like learn the rules for them like as quickly as I can on the off chance I get thrown into them. Like I played like Acquire for the first time, like right after winning like Cascadia. I played like Seven Wonders with the expansion. Played Seven Wonders, but never with like the Leaders expansion. So after I won Cascadia, I was going through the list of all the games. I was like, okay, these are the ones I want. These are the ones I don't want. If I get Gaia Project, I'll probably just go home. No point even showing up. But when it got to like the actual like day when we were like picking the games, I was like, okay, what games do I want? And I had somehow forgot that Raw was even an option. Like when I was going through all the lists, I was like, these are ones I want, these are ones I don't want. Oh yeah, I forgot about Raw until like it got pulled from the bag. I was like, oh yeah, that game exists. I played twice, and I was actually ecstatic to get Raw because that was the one game where I was like, if I get put in that game, I may be able to get some sleep tonight. Because Gaia Project wasn't happening, Dune wasn't happening, Arc Nova, those are all really heavy games, really high skill ceilings, so much to learn. Raw, you just call Raw. You call Raw or you lose. That's the whole game, right? From what I understand. I didn't call Raw enough, so I lost.
So you made it to the finals.
Yes.
So in the finals, there was Angela, who eventually won, which she had won
Castles of Burgundy.
Burgundy, and then Gaia Project.
Right.
And then you had just won in the semifinals for
Dune Imperium.
Dune Imperium. The other two were
Andrew, who won Arc Nova and then won Raw. And then Juka, who won Brass and then Arc Nova.
So all these games. Then you get to the final, and the final is Splendor. Right. How did that feel there?
So for Splendor, that is a game that I had never played. I trained for Splendor on BGA because that was the one of the games that I hadn't played in the physical form. So I played it, and I was dreadful on BGA. I could not, it never clicked for me. And I was hovering around like a 100 ELO for forever. I might have won a couple games, and I had Splendor Duel at home, and I would play with my son, and he would obliterate me. And so he knew I was terrible at Splendor, and he was telling my wife, like, oh God, Dad's gonna lose, he's so bad at that game. and so he was giving the scouting report back home, and so I was fortunate because there's a very quick turnaround. After the semifinal, we all come out into the lobby, we find out, we pick what game we're going to play, and we go right back in. So there's really no time to train. So I was able to pull aside Levi, who was the Terraforming Mars 2-time ring winner. And I was getting, because I didn't know what I was going to play, so I said, like, real quick, like, run through what's my Terraforming Mars strategy, what's my Splendor strategy, what's my Great Western Trail strategy, like, boom, boom, boom. And he gave me like a 2-minute synopsis of each thing, what to do, and I tried to keep it all stuck in my head until we found out that it was Splendor. And then I tried to implement his strategies as much as I can. I came 1 point short.
It was a very close game.
It was a very close game, yeah.
So in that final, in the finals, there's the 4 people who've won the semifinal, and we bring them up, and there's going to be a random game chosen of the 8 games that are left over, because each person has won 4 different games, and then they won 4. And it could even be less than 8 games if someone's won more than one tournament at the beginning. So let's say 8. But then each person can secretly veto a game. And they could all veto the same game. But even if they all veto a different game, there's still 4 left. I don't think there's any way for there not to be 1 game left over.
Oh yeah,
what did you veto and why?
Oh God! All right, so that was a very stressful situation because not only it was a game within itself because I had to make sure that I was vetoing something that I definitely didn't want to play, but I also didn't want to use my veto for something that somebody else might veto, and there were multiple games I didn't want to play, and so the game that I felt the least ready for was Great Western Trail, just because it was a very deep and heavy game. I was familiar with it, but not to the extent where I felt like I could be ultra competitive against other people that had played it more, and so I made sure that came out. Also, I hadn't been able to do like a quick study session with Levi or anybody else on Great Western Trail, where some of the other games I was more familiar with and got a little bit of a. So I took that out. I was really hopeful that Wingspan, which had survived that long, was going to fall to me, which would have been a dream scenario for me because that's my best game. As it turned out, 2 people eliminated Wingspan. So that
I was surprised at that.
Oh
actually.
God, that was gut wrenching. And I believe Angela did Terraforming Mars. She eliminated Terraforming Mars, which was another game I was a little worried about just because of how heavy it was. And even though I was more familiar with that game, and I got tips from the 2-time ring winner, I thought that might be an advantage. I also was spent. I mean, I think we all were. It's a physically and mentally exhausting gauntlet that you run, going against all these really competitive people, and it's an all-day affair, and it's thrilling. But you are running on fumes and adrenaline, and there's very few of either remaining by the time we got to the finals. So I think we all were a little bit relieved that it was a lighter, shorter game at that point, and not some 3 or 4 hour marathon.
That hasn't happened yet, but I think the veto process will eliminate most of the bigger games by this thing. Although there's always that thing where people...
Yeah, it could happen, sure.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I thought was really funny about the whole veto process is you would kind of expect people to be like really cagey about like what their bans are, because you want to win, so you want to keep like your good games in. I was talking with like a lot of the ring winners, and we were pretty upfront, like, hey, if I'm going through, like, Brass Birmingham's gone. You don't even need to worry about that.
Right.
Like, we were pretty open with, like, what I think a lot of us didn't want to play. Angela told me, like, she wanted Terraforming Mars, like, gone.
Right.
Like, yeah, I was, like, aware of that. I didn't make it that far, so I didn't.
So did you were exhausted.
Oh, yeah,
Did you even watch the final?
Oh, I did. I watched it live. I was in the crowd. Yeah, I had so much adrenaline going through me at that point. I couldn't sleep. Like, even though I was working off of half an hour of sleep over, like, the last 48 hours or whatever, like, yeah, it's a very, like, intense experience.
So what happened after they award the winners and everything? What did you both crash then?
Oh yeah. So I think I had already had to move my flight because I didn't expect to make it that far. So I was supposed to fly out the previous night.
I remember that.
And I scrambled. I'm like, I'm not gonna miss out on this opportunity. So I took like a red eye back home. It was miserable weather. I was sick as a dog. I mean, you go, the travel and this was it was just an exhausting thing. So my body had taken a beating, and I got back and I fell through the door, and it was early in the morning, and it felt so surreal. The whole process felt surreal. Once I got to the ring part, I don't know how you felt, but once I won a ring, I couldn't believe it, and then you're just kind of coasting off of the dreamlike status of going from game to game, and trying to refocus during the semifinals and the finals was a task into itself. But it's even right now. I mean, here we are, several months, I mean, almost a year later from the event, and it still hardly feels. I mean, we're in Dice Tower headquarters right now. That's this is not what I expected.
Not
a year
that
ago.
hard to get in here.
Honestly, I would say this experience is almost worth more to me than like the ring itself. This is super cool.
Cut
like
that
this
clip.
Yeah, this was an incredible experience. In my case, like I said, I was so amped up on adrenaline. I don't think I could have like gone to sleep even if I wanted to. I actually drove back to San Diego like right after the tournament. Wow. It was like a 4 or 5 hour drive. Like I just had to like get home, and it's funny because I was actually invited by Levi like right after the tournament. He was like, hey, you want to stay in Vegas and play some like poker and stuff? And it was a very like tempting offer, but I was like, I just got to get home. And I found out later that Levi is a professional poker player, so I think he just wanted to take my money. But thankfully I got out of there like when I could. Yeah.
During the con itself, did you do anything else other than play your tournaments and train?
Absolutely. So again, until I won the ring, I didn't really think I had much of a chance to be competitive within it. I wanted to give it my best shot, but I wasn't gonna just play Azul all week long and travel to Vegas just to play Azul or Seven Wonders or anything. So I tallied it up. I played 37 games over the course of that week. Some of them were the games, obviously, that I played in the tournament, but I learned, I think, 8 or 9 games that I had never played before, light games, heavy games, all kinds of things. Met a whole bunch of people, and really I wanted to soak in the entire experience. The first thing I did there was actually learn a game from you. Within the first 5 minutes of it starting, you taught me Veil of Eternity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I played against Roy, and Roy was quick to remind me how much I went after him and cut his throat. Yes. That was my first 5 minutes in, and I already thought, okay, this is worth the price of admission before I even entered the tournament.
That was a good game. Also, I'm not playing with wow. So I learned how to play with competitive people. What about you?
For me, I didn't get a chance to play as many like non-tournament games as like I might have liked. I didn't expect to do as well as I did. So for me, it became like a cram sesh of trying to play as many of these games that I had never even like prepared for at all. I got to play with people that I met like during the tournament. I would have liked more time to like, meet the designers and the publishers because there's a lot of like amazing people there. I only barely got to like talk to you like during like the whole tournament thing and stuff because too busy winning, whatever.
He doesn't talk to losers.
I can't complain. But yeah, if you want Tom to talk to you, win a ring, easiest way.
I'm out in the open area too.
Yeah.
If you want,
and you taught Ready Set Bet there.
I did.
That was a blast.
Yeah.
That was one of the highlights, honestly, of the week is when you had the whole table fixated around you and you were calling the horses, and it was great.
it's the most
hear him from the
screaming
tournament
session.
room.
Yeah.
Oh, could you?
No. Not that bad.
If you did, it was definitely John. So it wasn't my fault. Yeah. So, are you going back?
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I already have my hotel booked and like my ticket and everything.
So people are probably on the fence on going, and I understand that. This is not a con where you just go, go to some degree.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to them?
Well, I think it really is a matter of what's the sticking point. What is the reason that you would consider not going? Because I think it really fulfills so many different facets that maybe even other cons cannot compete with. Sure, you're going to have an enormous game library. If you just want to play games and meet other people and who are all welcoming to play games, that is there in abundance, right? The Dice Tower West brings a huge chunk of their library. It's overkill and it's lovely.
It really is overkill.
Yeah.
The ratio is like the greatest in the
Oh my
world.
gosh, it's unbelievable, and it's the easiest thing to just scan your tag and get the game of your choice. So there's that. You get to meet designers and personalities like yourself, which is a thrill for those of us who have only seen you via YouTube.
And there will be more designers there this year. I know Min and Elwin will be there from Lost Ruins of Arnak and other designers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the roster was for last year was, I don't know, it's got to be 20 plus or so or thereabouts of people from Dice Tower and beyond. Shut Up and Sit Down was there. The Podfather was there. There was a lot of people there. So there's that aspect. Of course, the competitive aspect is, I think, a very big draw, and that was certainly what kind of made this a special standout kind of event. Is I could go to something more local that is a convention and play games and meet people and that sort of thing. But the tournament atmosphere really ratcheted it up a bunch, and it felt special.
Yes.
Walking away from the general play area and into the I mean, they run it so well. World Series of Board Gaming runs it so well that they have you at an assigned table and an assigned seat with, it's got to be very, specific in terms of how you play the game because they want to make sure that everybody's playing fairly by the same set of rules and everything. They do a wonderful job of making sure you know what you're doing going in there. They have judges there to make sure that there's no foul play, intentional or otherwise. And then you get in there and it has a very serious atmosphere and yet a very collegial atmosphere, like I was saying before. And then, of course, as you ramp up through even just winning one round and getting to that next round feels special. It really, really does. And when you turn in the card after a victory and say, hey, I'm into the next round, it's really a pride point. Getting that ring was incredible, and
highlight of my life.
Yeah, and just sharing that with family and friends and coworkers and everybody is tremendous. And then of course, I was very fortunate that I actually got to hold one of the big checks at the end, and to have my trip paid for and then some as a result, I think you hit it. It really is a highlight. I mean, my kids and my marriage come way. It doesn't touch those things. It doesn't touch those things. But I mean, is it a top 10 life event? Absolutely, absolutely one of those top 10 life experiences. And I feel like I've lived a pretty charmed life outside of board gaming, but this it went right up there with some of my most favorite memories, and it really has kind of unlocked what was already a joy into something much greater.
What about you? What would you tell people?
I agree with a lot of what you said. If you're at all interested in trying competitive board games and stuff, I would say definitely do it. There are some games that are fun to play casually, but there are some games that are very enjoyable if you do really learn how to play them at a more competitive level. Like, I picked up Arnak recently, and that's a game where, like, the more I play it, the more I love it, just because there's so much interesting strategy. And you'd be surprised at how much strategy, like, goes into these games. Like, Splendor's a great example where how you initially, like, think you should play Splendor is not the way, like, high-level players do it. That's what really caught me off guard, and I never would have known that if I hadn't gone to WSBG. Raw was a game I was pretty, like, lukewarm about. I thought it was fine, but I actually appreciated it a lot more once I talked to, like, people who are really good at Raw. They're like, actually, there's a lot more going on here, and learning about all that stuff is, like, super interesting. So if you're at all interested in, like, you know, playing these games competitively, even if you don't think you could win, I didn't think I could win, I would say go ahead and give it a shot. And I understand that they're really expanding, like, the amount of things that you are going to be able to do next year. They have second chance tournaments. If you're unlucky and lose in the first round, you get a chance to go in the Phoenix ones, which is like you could still win a, you know, good size amount of money for, like, those second chance tournaments. I understand that if you sign up for Arc Nova, you also get, like, an exclusive map that's, like, unique to WSBG.
Yeah.
Like, the designer's making, like, this new map for people who specifically sign up to the tournament.
I will
So that's
buy one
super
of those
cool.
from one of the players.
Yeah. I'm not getting one because I'm not signing up for
There's a
Arc Nova.
Terraforming Mars. There's a Terraforming Mars card.
Yeah. Well, I think you actually brought up the side tournament. So there's the Phoenix tournament this year, which was not afforded to us last year. But there's also the outer ring tournament. So the ring tournaments is what we competed in, but the outer ring tournaments, I competed in those as well. And it's no additional fee or anything like that. It's just part of being there. But it gives you, if you get eliminated from the other games, or if you just want to compete but maybe not at that intensive a level, and also it's a broader variety of games that are in the outer ring tournaments. But there are nice prizes there as well, and it kind of gives you that kind of middle ground between, you know, casual play, intense in-ring tournament play, and then you have the outer ring tournaments as well.
Yeah. And you don't even have to compete at all in, like, the tournaments and stuff. Like you said, huge library and lots of people who are there, like, not even to, like, you know, play in the tournaments themselves, but to, like, you know, support their partners or their friends that are playing.
I was really impressed. There were a lot of couples there, and I didn't know what to expect. I had never been to a con of any kind before. There were a lot of couples, and so sometimes it might be that, you know, the husband was there just to support his wife, who was going to go play in the tournament, but he wasn't as competitive, so he might just play casually and then go play in an outer ring tournament or something like that. So there was a lot of that going on.
And there's a lot of people out there hanging around playing games, and it'll be interesting because in that open game area, there's a mix of I'm here because I'm here to support so-and-so playing a game, and this one's like, well, I'm here because I lost the first game of Wingspan. So now I'm here to play games for the rest of the day. It's not like they kick you out. And I know some people come to play in the tournaments, and they don't expect to win anything. They just want to play high-level play, and it's a guaranteed high-level play game 4 times over the course.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that point right there, and we were talking about how it was a great life experience, and I think one of the reasons why is I think we all like to kind of be tested from time to time. And we want to, if we think that we're good at something, there's always that question of, like, how good am I at this? And until you test yourself, and, you know, not only am I good at this, but can I keep my wits about me when it's a pressure situation? This gives you that opportunity, and I don't know that there's too many other opportunities where you get to do that.
If anyone watching has any questions, we'll have a few minutes for that, so quick ask them as quickly as you can. And we're about to see a rematch at Cascadia with all the former champions. This just one. Now, one thing I want to mention, one thing I thought was interesting, there was very little crossover between the ring winners from year 1 and year 2.
Yeah.
There was a few, right? And I think this year there was no one won 2.
No one won 2 this year. Levi is the only 2-time winner in the same game, as far as I know.
And that was interesting too. One person won the same game twice. In fact, I went by the table and let his let his competitors know, and he was like, "Thanks," but he still won. That's interesting. If you get there and you play against people who've won. Did either of you play against the winners from last year?
I know that in my second round of Seven Wonders, the other 2 players had both won rings the previous year. So I was the ugly duckling at that table, and I don't know if that went to my favor, where they were trying to take each other out and I was the beneficiary or what. But that was a little intimidating for sure. And then there was at least one. So obviously in the semifinals, everybody's a ring winner, but I think one of them was a 2-time winner as well. So yes, there was a lot of bling to be shared at the tables.
All right, the question is, did you do any Vegas attractions while you were there, or was it just gaming?
So I had initially planned to do Vegas attractions, but unfortunately, it got too busy. I got to see one magic show, Shin Lim. He's like the card guy.
Yeah.
I hope I said his name right.
Shin Lim, yeah.
Yes, that show's great. I don't know if he's still like in Vegas, but I definitely recommend that. But that was the only thing I really had time for. It's funny, at our final Cascadia table, we started at like 7 or something. At the start of it, one of the girl at the table, she said that she was going to go to Cirque du Soleil, actually. And she was like, well, that starts at like 9:30, so we'll definitely be done by then.
Narrator, they were not.
Narrator, yeah. We were not remotely done. That was probably the longest game of Cascadia I ever played, so sorry about that. But yeah, I would have loved to see more Vegas attractions. Thankfully, I'm local and I've been to Vegas before, so for me, I didn't feel particular pressure. And I already knew I was probably going to be going back next year. So if I do poorly, next year, maybe I'll have some time to check out Vegas more.
Mike wants to know, do you feel like you need to stay current on the game that you've won?
Ooh.
I mean, I'm not sure exactly
Like,
what
do
it
you
means by
feel
current.
like, well, okay, well, you're lucky because 7-1 is
Yeah, you
have
on the
that
game that I
forever,
won?
yeah.
Yes. Thankfully, that was a retired game for this year, so I feel, especially after yesterday, winning here, I feel like I can.
You're done.
Yes.
So, Cascadia's in next year. Are you going to go and play it?
I am obligated to play Cascadia. I'm a little unfortunate in that 3 of the 4 games I played last year are all on Cascadia Day, but I gotta give it another go, And yeah.
Well, I was got a question. What's your all-time favorite game?
Right now, I'm loving the new edition of Castles of Burgundy, and I'm hoping the prettier tiles and everything like that help me do a little bit better in this year's tournament than I did last year.
I feel obligated to say Cascadia. It's definitely in my top 3 for sure. Probably like the game I've thought of as like my favorite game is Battlestar Galactica, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah, really heavy game. It's largely nostalgia. I haven't had a chance to play in a bit because it's very hard to get to the table, but that game, like, I really have a soft spot for it. So someone was asking, is the cake vending machine as great as the Dice Tower crew make it? There's a cake vending machine. I know where they all are in Vegas. I can give you a map. But I like going to this one because that crepes place is right around the corner at Paris. Did you eat it all while you were there, or was it just like quick eating and back to gaming? Oh yeah, it was very like military. Just like I got to get calories in me because while we weren't like exercising a lot, I was probably burning through an insane amount of calories just like brain power wise. I checked my Fitbit after Cascadia Day, and I think my heart rate was 140 for basically the whole day. I was so stressed. Or maybe I'm just really unhealthy. Probably both.
I would cram one meal in, and then that was about it for the day.
Yeah.
Oh, well, either way, folks, this is happening this coming September. Yeah, I'll be there. You guys will be there. Lots of the Dice Tower will be there. But also, if you can't make it for whatever reason, we'll be streaming a lot of stuff. We'll be streaming more than we did last year. And you have a chance to come. So in just a few minutes, we're going to be back here playing Cascadia. And so you get to see that being played in a couple other games. So that's going to be happening today. And we have some big game announcements coming later your way. This afternoon, and we're going to all die in a Galaxy Trucker coming up later on. So lots of fun things heading your way. So we'll be right back. I want to thank both of you guys for coming.
Thank you.
I know you traveled a long time to get here, and they came in the worst rainstorm that we've had in a non-hurricane situation in a long time. It's bad, but it's not raining right now. So we'll be right back. Until then, I'm Tom.
Scott.
And I'm PJ.
We'll be right back. Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, you would love to game with us at one of our conventions. Check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. Fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Bassel.